loaned to us from the airport. I am grateful for all of those who have helped us to this point to get to this meeting. I want to thank all of you. We have a large audience out there. I don't know how many of you are planning to speak, but if you are planning to speak, I would like for you to raise your hand at that time. Kathy has been helping us, and Sylvia's. I mean, it's just so many people helping us out. I appreciate that. I'm thankful for all the board members who are here as well. Now, the purpose of this meeting is to public hearing is to make some changes in the rules as they so stand now. The rules that we're interested in making changes are with is going to be on the rule number 2, section C6 and subsection E. That is the first rule that we're going to be considering. That rule does allow because of the changes and circumstances of all of our lives right now. Basically, we are dealing with a situation where we have no longer have our director of personnel with us. God bless him. He retired, and at this moment, we are without a personnel director at a time that is very important to have a personnel director. And the way the rules are, it's going to take a while to get a personnel director. And what we would like to do now is that because our circumstances are not like normal circumstances, we want to give the mayor some opportunity, or any mayor who finds himself in this situation where there's an abrupt leaving of a personnel director, give them some leeway in order to make some choices and help those choices and to present them to us so that we can go ahead and get somebody in place on a permanent basis, on a temporary basis, while we go through the process of searching for a permanent personnel director. And that's the purpose of the meeting. The second part in section 7, that is section 7A, rule 7, rule 7, section 7A, that deals with just helping us out and making it more clear as to why we need to change the rule. So at this point, what we're going to do is that we're going to open up for public comment, and all those who would like to comment, you have to indicate in some way or the other that you want to do so. We have a board vice chairman here, Dean, and we have also Steve Barney here. And I would like for them to say something if you want to begin before we open up to public comments. Dean, Steve, do you all want something to say prior to public comments?
No, I can wait until. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Dean?
No, I'm fine. I want to hear public comments before we comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're open for public comments, and if you want to say something, please let me know by raising your hand, and I can acknowledge you. At that point, please state your name, and if you're with an organization, the name of the organization, or where you're working and your interest in the meeting. Who would be first?
I mean, that is the way that I look at it and understand the
I'm sorry, I'm not knowing who's speaking.
I also do think it challenges us.
Hello? I don't know who's speaking.
I think they muted themselves.
Okay.
So I think we're waiting for somebody else to speak up, to introduce themselves, and then let us know what organization they're with, if they represent an organization, and then and then move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see Jeff Rhoda, please. You're muted, Jeff.
I think it doesn't show up right away that it's unmuted, and I kept clicking twice and remuting myself. Good afternoon, Colonel. I never know what to call you. Chairwoman, Judge, Colonel, Commissioner, so many titles. And good afternoon to the other commissioners as well. Jeff Rorda, on behalf of the St. Louis Police Officers Association, we of course represent a number of different city employee groups, including police officers, probationary police officers, and police recruits is one bargaining unit that we represent. Another is police sergeants. Another is police civilians. Another is airport police officers, and the last is airport police sergeants. We're the certified bargaining agent for all 5 of those groups, and we have members who are outside of those bargaining groups as well, for a total of about I think 1,150 or 1,200 city employees. So this is a very important matter for us. I will sum up my my testimony in 3 words. Don't do it. I know the urge to comply with the mayor's desires is strong, and the mayor wishes to have expanded control over the Department of Personnel and the Civil Service Commission, but that's not a good thing, and that's not a criticism of this mayor. It's a criticism of any mayor who would turn a civil service system that has worked well for so many decades for this city into a vestigial patronage system that the voters of this city roundly rejected when they adopted the charter. Our city charter clearly and unequivocally makes it clear that the mayor or any other politician did not corruptly use for political influence our civil service system and our Department of Personnel. This, while I don't think this is the intention of the commissioners, this is a likely outcome of handing too much power over to the mayor. This rule is open-ended. It's an evergreen authority for the mayor. There's no requirement in here that a civil service or a Department of Personnel director be appointed with any immediacy once an interim is appointed. And, you know, our fear would be that an interim director could be put in place without any process moving forward for a permanent director. And that is a scary process. We're also very concerned that the acting director would have undue influence that was politically motivated through the mayoral appointment on the process of selecting the permanent director. And I'll say again, my advice and my strong encouragement for the Civil Service Commission is just don't do it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to speak?
There's 4 hands raised.
Donnell Walters?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Speak? Yes.
I represent the Ethical Society of Police, and myself, as well as my members, most who are not members of the association, we are in agreement to there being a change in this selection process, and because we've seen the effects of past directors and things that have been questionable. So we support the commission in changing this ruling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walters. Anyone else?
Yes, there's Jeff's iPad.
Jeff, you can speak now, sir.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Hans. I work for the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council. We represent over 1,000 city employees scattered throughout many different departments. I also reside in the Holly Hills neighborhood within the city of St. Louis. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening, to express my opposition to the changes that are being proposed today by the commission. The rules in question in the city charter are quite clear. As Mr. Rota pointed out.
Just a second, sir. Just a moment, Jeff. There is someone whose phone is open and it's causing problems with us. So please, if you don't mind, would you mute your phone? If you're not talking, please be on mute. Okay, go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right. The rules in question and the city charter language are in place to prevent political influence and in the process and ability for the personnel department to function, as Mr. Rota pointed out. The notice makes it appear as if Richard Frank, the prior director, left his position of director without having someone serve as an intern as a replacement could be found. Mr. Frank did, in fact, appoint Brian Beckelman as deputy director. Rumors have it that he was locked out of his office and removed for reasons that have never been addressed or explained. Sylvia Donaldson was then appointed as the director. So I guess I'm saying all this as I'm really confused as to why we're now trying to change the rules when the very actions the commission are seeking have already happened and taken place. These are very concerning times for city employees. They've been working tirelessly through pandemic that never seems to stop. Most of them are short-staffed, underpaid, and I don't believe the citizens or the employees want a director of personnel or a civil service commission beholding to political influence. So please do not make these changes, as they're most likely going to have unintended consequences for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your response. At this time, I'm going to Emily Perez. Ms. Perez.
Greetings. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Emily Perez. I represent the International Association of Firefighters, Local 73. They represent the city's firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, and fire department dispatchers. And I'm speaking on their behalf today to urge you all to vote against adoption of the rule amendments as they are presented today, as has already been addressed by Jeff Hauntz and Jeff Rorda. The amendments to dispense with the requirement that the interim director come from the Department of Personnel and instead be appointed by the mayor fly in the face of what the charter has clearly established as a merit-based civil service system. I would argue that the civil service system fails to be merit-based when the person with the most influence over it is a political appointee. And, that's first and foremost why this sort of change should simply not be contemplated. And I understand that you all might view this as, oh, well, it's just a temporary appointment. It doesn't really matter. But the reality is that these sort of appointments never happen on the schedules or timeframes that are contemplated. And as an example for that, I believe that fire captains are supposed to be, a promotional test for the position of fire captain is supposed to be administered every 3 years. And the last time that happened was 2013. So the fear is that there will be a political appointee in this very powerful position for a long period of time, even if it's interim in nature. And this really isn't meant to be a commentary on the current administration. This would be my client's position, regardless of who was in office. My client's position is the current rule makes sense. Having someone in the position of interim director during a period of transition will allow for more efficient operations within the personnel department. The personnel department administers, I think, something like 26 collective bargaining agreements. And why it makes sense to have someone who doesn't have any knowledge of those contracts, the bargaining parties, the bargaining history, the current outstanding issues between the parties on an interim basis, that just doesn't make sense. And allowing the person who occupies that role temporarily to be someone who's a seasoned employee from within the department, we think makes much more sense. I also wanted to address a couple of troubling things that came out in an article published by the Post-Dispatch. I believe it was on December.
May I interject for a moment? We're
Yes.
here only for one reason, a public hearing on the rule change. We're not here to discuss what is in the papers and the Post-Dispatch. We're only here for one purpose, and that's it. We were trying to get to the point to allow people to speak without having to put a limit on their time. So we're here for one purpose only, and that is to address the rule change. That's it. So if you
respectfully, ma'am, that article addressed this rule change, and that's why I brought it up.
Well, someone was speaking. So the article is addressing the rule change. If you
Yes.
want to refer us to that article, we will take it under consideration and we can all read that article. But
I wanted to respond to comments that the commissioners made to the Post-Dispatch in that article about this rule change.
If there's some reasons that a commissioner made a statement, that commissioner is here today, they can make the statement to us today as part of this hearing. But as far as having the article introduced, this is not an evidentiary hearing.
I'm not trying to introduce the article, ma'am. Respectfully, I'm not trying to introduce the article. I'm trying to respond to a comment that was made about why you all as commissioners think this rule change needs to be made.
Well, can you just say it without reading the article?
I wasn't intending to read the article or introduce it. The quote I'm referring to is when one of the commissioners stated that you all, quote, had to do a lot of digging, unquote, to figure out who should be the interim director of personnel. And that's all I need to say about the article.
Okay.
And what I wanted to say in response to that is that that's unfortunate and that should not be the case. I believe that our civil service commissioners should have a relationship with our personnel department that is ongoing and allows them to have an understanding and a working knowledge of who the key players are within the personnel department and what their roles are. And if that's not the case, I would encourage you all to foster that relationship. And I would likewise encourage the employees of the personnel department to welcome it. But if the alternative to that is, well, that's too hard, we should just let the mayor appoint whomever she wants, that doesn't make any sense to me. And that's all the point that I wanted to make about, the article, which I do think is relevant to this proceeding.
Okay.
Finally, I just want to say in closing that, my client urges you all to reject these amendments and in the alternative, at least table a decision until more thought can be given to them. My client intends to pursue any available legal remedies in the event it is passed today. And I would just remind you that if the rule's challenged in court, the standard that will be applied is arbitrary and capricious in a de novo review. And where you are dispensing with a requirement that at least ensures that your interim director has a minimum level of experience within the Department of Personnel, relevant experience, in favor of allowing the mayor to appoint anyone, unfettered discretion to appoint anyone, I fail to see how that standard will be met. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. At this time, we're going to Percy iPhone. We can't hear you. You're on mute. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Can't hear you. Oh, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. My name is Percy Green III. I'm the chairman of Firefighters Institute for Racial Equality, better known as FIRE, representing about 99%, 98% of the Black firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and dispatchers on the city fire department. And so I heard Ms. Perez say that she represents all. I take issue with that. Secondly, we're in support, FIRE's in support of said changes to the civil service rules in question. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Eric Bates. Eric Bates.
Eric Bates. Okay, Mr. Bates.
Good afternoon. I am here representing no one but myself. I am just a citizen, former employee of the Department of Personnel, but currently not an employee of the city at all. I am here today just to speak up in opposition to these rule changes. Chairwoman, at the beginning of the meeting, you said that this is necessary because we are currently without a director of personnel and we need this to happen in order to make it happen. I was unaware that Sylvia was no longer the interim director of personnel. I could have sworn that she was appointed as interim director, and she's doing a fantastic job from what I understand. So I don't understand the need for this change in the first place when the rules that as they stand have worked in that Ms. Donaldson, it has been appointed as the interim director of personnel, and now we can move forward with performing an actual search for a permanent replacement for Director Frank. The commission, I think we should all remember, the commission may be appointed by the mayor, but the commission does not work for the mayor. And again, this is not any kind of criticism of Mayor Jones in particular. This is of any mayoral administration that we may have in the past or going forward from here. But I find it odd that so soon after the police chief search was scrapped, suddenly we're wanting to change these rules. I can't help but wonder if this is all somehow related to that, and the fact that maybe the Department of Personnel is not working in the way that the mayor's administration wanted things to work. And so now I question, for starters, who wrote these rule changes, where the rule changes came from, because to me, it speaks very much as if this is some sort of influence from Room 200, which would be in direct violation of the charter, and that the mayor's office is giving, I mean, it just screams that the mayor's office is trying to have direct influence on the Civil Service Commission, or not the commission, sorry, the civil service process and the merit-based system that we have. So like I said, I can't speak any better than what the others have said about this, who have spoken in opposition to these changes. But long story short, it's a bad idea. To echo Jeff Rorta, don't do it. It's not necessary. We have an interim director, unless she's planning on retiring in the next 2 or 3 weeks here. Get this process started and get a permanent director in place. In the meantime, the idea behind having an employee of the Department of Personnel serve as interim director is so that you can keep those lights on and keep things running with institutional knowledge while you search for a full-time director who can bring in the experience necessary, as opposed to someone who is just a personal choice of an elected official. I think we should all be scared of the idea of the head of the Department of Personnel being someone who is a political appointee, because that just starts from the top down now, that we're starting to, I feel we're in danger of dismantling the civil service system by having the very head of that department be a political appointee. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I don't see any other hands. I want to thank you all for the opportunity for coming to speaking to us today. I heard everything you said, and I'm sure the other commissioners did too. And we have taken that and what you've said and a lot of other things into consideration. But at this time, I would like to give Mr. Barney and also Dean an opportunity, if they would like to say something prior to us going into and actually we're going to vote today before we vote. Is there anything you would like to say, Mr. Barney? Mr. Barney, go ahead.
Well, several comments, and as someone who's been on the commission for more than a dozen years, I come out of a background of human resource executive work, and it's a most unusual organization, the city, to have one department head, namely the personnel director, have literally no accountability to the mayor once the mayor, whoever it is, has appointed that person. And I have seen time and again where the department likes to be very insulated from the mayor, not for making political appointments to the streets department or the parks department, but for simply having a response to the agenda that whatever CEO, and I've served under 3 mayors, and I can tell you every one of them has faced the same issue of a very insulated personnel function. And the folks in that area like that, as it's not surprising, but it's not typical of an organization. And we're talking about a structure that came about in early 1940s to deal with some very extreme partisan kinds of things that went on at the government level. We're decades beyond that, and there are lots of things in place that will not change how a police or a fire captain is selected in a competitive process, or change the way that pay and promotions are dealt with. I think it's a stretch. There's still a Civil Service Commission. It's still relatively independent because we, as one of the speakers did say, we do not work for the mayor once we are appointed. And no one, when I was appointed, made it a stipulation that I had to suggest some change in the function of how we deal with an interim. There's only been, for all practical purposes, 3 personnel directors in 60 years. That's a pretty unusual situation, and speaks to the insularity of that position. And when we talk about things like bargaining knowledge, I have seen the personnel director, Mr. Frank, who's been the director most of the time that I've been on the commission. He uses the rich resources of his staff when he does the bargaining. He does not do it all by himself in a vacuum. There is depth and breadth of support for the technical things, should there be someone named by the mayor to be an interim, because that's all this would provide, is an interim that would be appointed by the mayor, like every other department head. Ultimately, when we send a panel of qualified people for the permanent job, it's going to be the mayor that makes the choice. The only time the mayor doesn't get to make any kind of choice with respect to the human resource personnel leadership is when there's an interim under the current rule. And that's what we're trying to change. And it will be a system that has the same mayoral input that every other position, including the personnel director in the permanent position, has. So I appreciate the input we get, because I think if they were speaking in 1941 when this rule and when the initial charter was cast, they were against a background of a very different world. Even our mayor now is not elected on a partisan political party, but are now moved away from that. So I think the danger of this appointment that would last several months, creating an upheaval in the civil service, is remote. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barney. Dean, would you like to say something?
Yes, sorry about that. Having trouble. Same trouble I think Jeff had with my mute button.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for your input and your comments on this. It does give, while I agree with most of what Commissioner Barney said, it does give the things that you all have to say does provide context, and I understand what the concerns are, or what the potential concerns are that you all have brought forward to this commission and for the commissioners to consider. So I don't want you all to think that we aren't considering those things. I've been actually sitting here thinking about everything you all have said, each and every comment, while we've gone through this process. Okay, specifically this meeting. So I want to thank everybody for your comments, and this is part of the process. And I think this is the transparency that these type of moves require. So I appreciate you all's comments on that. I don't really have any comments other than I think what we have said in the past about the rule potentially, or what Commissioner Barney has to say is I think sufficient. I won't belabor the point, but I do want to thank everybody for your comments and your whether it's for it or opposition, because I think it's important for us to understand all of these positions,
right,
as we try to make this decision moving forward. So that's only my comments for now. I think we're ready to go.
Okay, I want to answer one question though, or make a comment based upon one of the comments I think Mr. Eric Bates made, and that is that he was under the assumption somehow that the rule change was probably written out of room 200 and down to us. That's not true. What happened, the commissioners got together. We actually wrote out something among ourselves, and the only thing we did at that point, we sent it to be sure that we were legally correct by sending it to the city councilor. But the beginning of the writing of that rule actually came among us, the three of us. And for that, so it's different from the picture that you showed, you expressed. It didn't come from 200. We appreciate 200's help and everything they're doing to help us, especially in expediting this meeting today. They had to help us with that. So we appreciate all they're doing, but at the same time, you need to know that each of us on this board, we have a sense of our own independence. We kind of look at things, we evaluate things. Dean also is a labor lawyer. We sort of look at things, we see where they're coming from. And I'm a very independent person. Dean is shown to be an independent person. Mr. Barney is shown to be an independent person. We are independent. We're not going to let anyone just shove something down us if we don't think it's going to be the best interest of the city. We just happen to have somebody working with us now, and it's working very well. So I appreciate all the comments, the negative as well as the good. I will also say one other thing before we actually vote, and that is, as far as Mrs. Donaldson is concerned, she's doing a fantastic job. She came in and she's doing a good job. I think you mentioned that. She's doing a great job. I appreciate her, and I did not know her until she came into this position, but I appreciate what she's doing and everybody who's helping us out. Okay, if there are no more comments among the board members or among those that are out, that actually the public comment section is actually closed at this point. So I would like to have a motion, however, on the record that we're closing the public comment, and then we can second it and take a roll call vote.
I would like to move that.
Okay, thank you. I'll second it. All in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Betty? Aye. Kathy, not trying to interfere with you, okay?
I was ready.
Well, the next one, you be ready. You can do it. Okay.
Point of information here. I think there's still a grammatical error in the first part of this where it says may immediate make a provisional appointment of any person they deems qualified. It should be he or she again, like you did down below.
Like we did before. Okay, all right. So will I make a motion then that we correct that error?
Yeah, please. I so.
Okay, it's been seconded by Dean. Roll call vote.
Who made the motion?
Steve.
Yes.
What? Hold on one second. What part? Sorry, I'm behind a little bit, I guess. What part are you talking about, Commissioner Burney?
Proposed change.
I think I can share it. I think I could share it. There we go.
Okay.
There's a boldface section and the third line down, provisional appointment of any person they deems qualified. The pronoun should be he or she or he. That's
okay. I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I
so
don't
Dean,
promulgate a rule with that kind of a grammatical problem.
Right. So Dean, would you like to second that motion?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Burney?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barry Divo?
Yes.
Chairperson Bettle Turner?
Yes. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Burney?
Yes.
Chairperson Bettle Turner?
Wait, I have a point of correction. I'm sorry. Did we vote to accept the rule?
No. I don't think you did.
No, we need to go back.
Okay.
We're moving too fast, Kathy. Sorry about that. I will make the motion that we accept the rule changes as they are proposed with the correction indicated by Mr. Steve Barney.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Chairperson Battle Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Barney,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barry Daibo,
Yes.
Now we can make a motion to adjourn. I make the motion that we adjourn this meeting at this time.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Roll call vote.
Chairperson Battle Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Barney,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barry Daibo.
Yes.
I want to thank you all for coming. Enjoy your rest of your weekend starting today. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself and do that what you do on the Friday. And thank you. And if we ever have another meeting, please come back and be with us. At this time, the meeting is adjourned.